They say every street in York has a ghost. Every alley, every stone, holds a memory that refuses to fade. They call it the most haunted city in Europe, and for good reason. In 2025, researchers mapped over 5,500 hauntings across the entire United Kingdom. And guess which city ranks near the very top? York. This is the city the dead never left. And tonight, we're going to find out why. From the spectral Roman legions marching beneath the Treasurer's house to the weeping ghost of the Grey Lady in the Theatre Royal, we're exploring the stories etched into the very fabric of this ancient capital. Are these just tales, or is something more profound happening here? Join me as we uncover the truth behind England's City of Ghosts. If you love mysteries and things that go bump in the night, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. You won't want to miss what's coming. They say every city has its ghosts, right? A story here, a spooky legend there. But what if I told you there's a city in England where the past is just a story, where it's so thick, you can almost breathe it in? A city where the line between history and haunting has blurred completely. Welcome to York. This isn't your average ghost hunt. We're going beyond the legends, beyond the campfire tales. We're mapping the real hauntings of York, cross-referencing centuries of folklore with modern-day reports, eyewitness accounts, and even police records. What we found is, unsettling. From the spectral Roman legionaries marching through a cellar wall to the shadowy figures that flicker in the windows of the Shambles, the stories are piling up, and it's not just in York. We've uncovered a pattern of similar, unexplained events across the UK, creating a map of paranormal hotspots that defy simple explanation. This isn't just about things that go bump in the night. It's about trying to understand why some places seem to hold on to their ghosts tighter than others. So, lock your doors, turn up the volume, and join us. Peeling back the layers of time to uncover the truth buried beneath the ancient stones of England's most haunted city. Is it just history, or is something else listening? What you're about to see might change the way you think about ghost stories forever. Let's begin. York is ancient, older than London, older than most of Britain's modern cities. It was founded by the Romans, invaded by Vikings, and has been burned, rebuilt, and bled into the ground so many times that the earth itself feels awake. Think about it. They built new streets over old battlefields, new homes over execution sites, and bustling marketplaces over plague pits. And somewhere, in those compressed layers between the living and the buried, something stayed behind. Every single night, you'll see ghost tours winding through York's narrow, cobbled lanes, snickleways. You'll hear tourists laughing nervously as guides recount the same old legends. The weeping lady of the Treasurer's house, the lost children of Bedern Hall. But what's truly fascinating is how often those centuries-old legends startlingly match modern reports. They echo in police logs, they show up as unexplained shapes on security footage, and they're whispered about by locals who have seen things they can't explain. Maybe it's all just a massive citywide coincidence. A trick of the light, the wind whistling through ancient alleyways, or maybe, just maybe, York is one of the few places on Earth where the veil between our world and whatever comes next has worn dangerously thin, and we're here to pull it back. Have you ever felt a chill in a place so old you can almost hear the past whispering? Welcome to York, a city where history isn't just in the buildings, it's in the very air you breathe. They call it the most haunted city in England, and for good reason. From the mournful march of Roman legions beneath the Treasurer's house to the shadowy figures that linger in the medieval alleyways known as the Snickleways, York is a living museum of ghostly tales. But what if I told you these weren't just stories? What if these spectral encounters were more than just folklore passed down through generations? This year, a team of British paranormal researchers and data scientists did something unprecedented. They compiled over 5,500 documented hauntings from across the entire UK. We're talking about everything. Police reports of unexplained phenomena, eyewitness accounts from terrified tourists, and centuries-old local legends. They took every single claim and turned it into a data point on a map. When they plotted all this data, the results were astonishing. The map of the UK lit up, but one city burned brighter than almost any other. York had appeared as a dense, almost impossibly bright constellation of supernatural activity, a paranormal hotspot second only to Rochester. The data revealed a chilling pattern. The hauntings weren't random, they clustered in specific areas, tracing the lines of ancient tragedies and forgotten sorrows. From the old city walls, where sentinels still keep a silent, eternal watch, to the imposing shadow of the York Minster, the hauntings seem to follow the contours of old ground, marking places of old pain. One researcher put it starkly, you can almost see where people died, just by looking at the data. It's as if the city itself has a memory, and it refuses to let its most painful moments be forgotten. The map doesn't just show us where the ghosts are, it shows us where history's wounds have never truly healed. Take the Golden Fleece, one of York's oldest and most famous pubs. It's not just known for its ale, it's infamous for its spectral residents. The most famous is Lady Alice Peckett, the wife of a former mayor, often seen wandering the corridors. But she's not alone. There are reports of a Canadian airman from World War II who fell to his death from an upper window. his presence still felt by staff and guests alike. The new data map confirms what locals have always known. This pub is a nexus of paranormal energy, a place where different eras of history collide in the most unsettling ways. Then there's the Shambles, the famous medieval street with its overhanging timber-framed houses. It looks like something straight out of a storybook, but its history is far darker. The data points here are thick, corresponding to tales of a ghostly child, often heard crying, and the phantom of a man in a bowler hat, who vanishes as quickly as he appears. The map visualizes this shows how these narrow, claustrophobic streets have trapped the echoes of countless lives and deaths within their ancient walls. The researchers noted that areas with intense emotional history, like the butcher shops that once lined the Shambles, often correlate with high levels of reported activity. What this 2025 map truly reveals is that York isn't just haunted by individual ghosts. It's haunted by its own epic, often brutal, history. The Roman soldiers, the Viking invaders, the victims of plague and war, they haven't entirely left. Their stories, their pain, and their energy are woven into the fabric of the city. This data-driven approach gives us a new lens to view these old tales, transforming them from mere folklore into a measurable, observable phenomenon. The map is a testament to the fact that in a city as old as York, the past is never really dead. It's just waiting in the shadows for you to walk by. Every haunted city has its landmarks, its ghost stories, its legends. But the stories from York, they feel different. They feel colder, somehow, closer. Take the Treasurer's house. A plumber was working in the cellar, crawling through a dusty, forgotten space. Suddenly he froze. Marching toward him was a legion of Roman soldiers. He could see every detail, from their leather sandals to their crested helmets. The strangest part? He could only see the top halves of their bodies. They were marching on the original Roman road, buried feet below the modern floor. They walked right past him, their silent, ghostly forms disappearing straight through a solid stone wall. He wasn't the first to see them, and he certainly won't be the last. Then there's the Golden Fleece, one of England's most haunted pubs. If you ever stay the night, listen carefully. Guests report hearing the sound of heavy footsteps at precisely 3:07 a.m. every single night. The eerie part is where the sound comes from, the room directly above the main bar. The problem, there is no room above the bar. It's just an empty ceiling space. So, who, or what, is walking up there in the dead of night? Even the city's most sacred site, the magnificent York Minster, isn't safe from these spectral echoes. On still, quiet nights, the great bells have been heard ringing, even when the tower is locked and empty. Security guards, patrolling the vast, silent nave, have reported hearing faint, disembodied chanting in Latin, a ghostly choir echoing from walls built long before the Reformation. It's as if the very stones remember the prayers of centuries past. And you can't talk about York without mentioning the Shambles, that famous medieval street. It's charming by day, but at night, it takes on a different character. Shopkeepers checking their security footage have been startled by what they find. Cameras sometimes catch fleeting reflections in the second-floor windows of the empty building's pale, gaunt faces staring down at the cobblestones below. When they check, of course, the rooms are always deserted. Some people might dismiss these events as clever tourism. Others might say it's just collective trauma, replayed by time and place. But for those who have seen it with their own eyes, for the people who have heard those footsteps or seen those faces, it's something else entirely. It's a reminder that in York, the past is never truly gone. It's walking right beside you. Ask anyone who's lived here long enough, and they'll tell you York changes after midnight. It's not just about the quiet streets, or the old buildings bathed in moonlight. It's something else, something you feel in the air. We talked to a bartender at the Fleece Inn, one of the most haunted pubs in the city. He told us, almost like a joke, that every single time a customer mentions the ghost that supposedly sits in the corner, the lights flicker. Not once, not twice, but consistently. It's become the pub's unofficial party trick. Then there's the postman, a man who's walked these routes for 30 years. He swears he still gets letters addressed to a house on a street that vanished in the 1800s. He just marks it returned to sender, but he says it feels like he's delivering mail to the past. A local ghost tour guide shared her own story. Sometimes when she's locking up after her last tour, long after the crowds have gone home, she hears footsteps behind her, the distinct sound of heavy boots scraping against the cobblestones. But every time she spins around, heart pounding, the narrow lane is completely empty. It's not just stories you hear, face-to-face online, on platforms like Reddit. The experiences are just as chilling. One user, a self-proclaimed skeptic, posted this. I don't believe in ghosts. I never have. But York made me question everything. One night, walking down Stonegate, I felt something beside me. I didn't see it, but I heard it breathing. A cold, steady rhythm. And when I glanced down at my shadow stretched out under the street lamp, there was no second shadow next to mine. Maybe York isn't haunted because people here believe in ghosts. Maybe people believe in ghosts. Because of York. The city itself seems to breathe stories, and sometimes, those stories breathe right back. Most historians will tell you it's a simple numbers game. A city with over 2,000 years of history, from Romans and Vikings to plagues and wars, is bound to collect. A few ghost stories along the way? Makes sense, right? But when we started plotting reported sightings for our 2025 haunting map, the data pointed to something far more specific. The hauntings aren't just random tales scattered across the city, they cluster. Look at this map. The hotspots are undeniable. They form around ancient burial grounds, the sites of former gallows, and churches, many of which were built directly on top of Roman or Viking foundations. What's fascinating is the geology underneath. A lot of old York sits on limestone. In folklore, limestone is often called a memory keeper, a stone believed to absorb and replay energy from past events. It's an idea that has fascinated paranormal investigators for years. Now scientists have their own theories. Some suggest that unique environmental factors, like high humidity and fluctuating magnetic fields common in old stone buildings, can directly affect the human brain, distorting our perception and creating what we interpret as a haunting experience. This could explain why people feel a sudden chill, a sense of being watched, or even see fleeting shadows in these locations. It's a compelling argument, and it might explain some isolated incidents, but it doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why multiple, unconnected people, separated by decades, report seeing the exact same apparition. Think of the famous Roman soldiers marching through the treasurer's house cellar seen by different visible individuals in different eras, all describing the same details. How does a magnetic field create a shared specific vision like that? And it certainly doesn't explain the technological malfunctions. We've all heard the stories, and many of us have experienced it firsthand. You walk into a reputedly haunted cellar, your fully charged camera battery dies instantly. You try to record audio, and all you get is static, but only in one specific corner of the room. As soon as you step out, everything works perfectly again. Is that just a coincidence? Or is some form of energy actively interfering with our devices? This is where we find ourselves standing on a fascinating line. On one side, you have hard data, scientific theories, and geological explanations. On the other, you have centuries of human belief, personal testimony, and experiences that defy easy answers. And the city of York, it doesn't just sit on that line, it dances on it. It challenges us to question what we think we know about the past and the imprints it leaves on the present. Imagine a place so steeped in the past that its very stones seem to whisper tales of Roman legions, Viking invaders, and tragic souls who never quite left. That's York. Locals and paranormal investigators have reported so many sightings, so many unexplained phenomena, that in 2025 a project was launched to map every single one. The result? Over 5,500 documented hauntings. It's a spectral tapestry woven into the fabric of the city itself. Let's start our journey at the treasurer's house. In 1953, a young apprentice plumber was working in the cellar when he heard the sound of a distant horn. Suddenly, a Roman soldier on horseback emerged, right through the wall, followed by an entire legion of weary, ghostly soldiers. They marched through the cellar and vanished into the opposite wall. The chilling part? Historical records later confirmed that an ancient Roman road, the Via Decumana, lies 15 inches below the cellar floor, exactly where the ghostly legionnaires were seen walking. Then there's the Golden Fleece, one of York's oldest and most haunted pubs. Do you want to be surprised if your pint glass moves on its own or you feel a cold breath on your neck? The pub is said to be home to at least 15 spirits, including a Canadian airman from World War II who fell to his death from an upper window. Guests often report seeing his ghostly figure, fully uniformed, wandering the halls late at night, forever reliving his final moments. But perhaps the most famous and heartbreaking tale is that of the Grey Lady of the York Theatre Royal. She is believed to be the ghost of a nun from a medieval hospital that once stood on the site. She was involved in a forbidden affair and, as punishment, was bricked up alive within the walls. For centuries, her sorrowful, grey-clad figure has been seen gliding through the dress circle, a silent, tragic guardian of the theatre. So maybe ghosts don't haunt York. Maybe York is the ghost, a living echo of every life, every death, every whisper trapped in its walls. 5,500 hauntings mapped, 2,000 years of history, and one city that never sleeps alone. If you ever walk its streets at night, and you hear footsteps behind you, don't look back. Thanks for joining us on this ghostly tour. If you enjoyed stepping into the shadows with us, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next chilling adventure. Stay curious.